Hello, hello, and welcome everyone to Emerge and Empower. And I am your host today, Dr. Lin J. I pray that you are well and your family as well. You are here yet again for another life changing episode where we have individuals that come on to share their story. So, all you need to do right now is share it with your friends, share it in your groups, tell everyone that Dr. Lin J is on with another segment of Emerge and Empower. That's all you need to do. Let them know that we are in the studio and we are ready to take off with our special guest on today. So, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and share. Let's do this today. Blessings. Welcome to Emerge and Empower, the podcast where we delve into stories of resilience, triumph, and personal growth. I'm your host, Dr. Lin J, and I'm thrilled to be your guide on this journey of empowerment. Each episode, we bring you inspiring conversations with individuals who have faced challenges head on, emerged stronger, and are now making a positive impact in their communities. Whether it's overcoming adversity, pursuing passions, or navigating the twists and turns of life, our guests share the valuable insights and lessons. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the segment of Emerge and Empower. And I know that you're in for a treat and you are in for a story that will bring a lot of awareness to you and also to change your life, help someone. Now, all you need to do right now is go ahead and share, and let everyone know that Dr. Lin J is on. And I have a very beautiful guest that is on here today, none other than Denise Bard. Denise, welcome to Emerge and Empower on today. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Great. So let's just read a little bit about Denise at this time as you are sharing and telling everybody, let's go, let's pull our seats, let's take a break. It's time to watch Emerge and Empower. So, in Denise Bard's moving new book, which is a 30-second moments, she describes the extraordinary impact that teachers, counselors, and coaches have every day of unknowingly. Through seemingly simple connections and conversations, they are shaping the lives of vulnerable children. Through her own challenging childhood, Denise discovered how, in just 30 seconds, these instrumental catalysts can ignite a transformational spark. Okay, a forever altering a child's perspective and providing solace amount unimaginable trauma. Her journey is a awe-inspiring tale of triumph over childhood abuse, all right, by profound power of those fleeting moments of connection, which only helped her heal but propelled her into a life of love and resilience. The gripping memoir celebrates the remarkable strength of human spirit and unveils profound ripple effects. These unsung heroes healed but propelled her life into a full life. Lives of broken children like Denise. It's a heartwarming narrative filled with untold stories of essential, generous women who played critical roles in shaping a brighter future for Denise and so many other vulnerable children. One connection at a time, and those legacies will live on forever, generation after generation. Denise Bard, a mother and a motivational speaker living in Baltimore, D.C. area. She has long been a special needs advocate, sitting on panels and committees for military families, helping to advocate for those who don't have a voice. She sits on the board of directors for Anchor House, where she sheltered as a teenager and speaks about childhood trauma, her challenging times growing up, and deep impact of just 30-second moments for women in her life who give her hope inspiration, and determination to live throughout the day. She is indeed a phenomenal woman. Whenever we have a woman or a man come on that shares their story, it is because they've gone through so much and they've emerged today to share. Now, we see it just by her bio on how her life changing. She said 30 seconds, all
Mhm.
right, that changed her life forever. Denise, welcome again. Now, let's just get right on in because I'm excited to understand how what this 30 seconds entails and how it came about. But first, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Denise? And we can go right into your story.
Sure. Well, my story didn't start out as my story. So I was born to two drug addicted teens. Um, and I faced a lot of different abuses as a child. And if you're thinking
Hmm.
the worst, it was worse than that.
Right.
Growing up in my early years, I shifted between my grandmother and my mother, each having their own separate styles of abuse. We'll call that.
Right.
So the challenges were constant no matter where I was. Um, and so I came into a family that already had some different cycles into it. So as you know, like the cycles continue, or at least that's
Hmm.
what, and I was born into that. And, I navigated this world in a secret world. Obviously, there's a lot of us who, faced a lot of things in childhood that are unspoken.
Yes.
You're drilled that it's your fault. People will walk away. They don't want to hear you.
Right.
Different things like that. So, uh, it's a burden to grow up in and try to navigate this world, portraying something that you're not.
Right.
So I always talk about that being the story I started out with because it's not who I am today. I wrote my own story now. So,
Yes.
yeah, so going back, it was, a childhood filled with, the unknowns. I used to call it the behind the door of the unknowns because,
Hmm.
everything's always secret. So you don't know.
Right.
So yeah, that's my beginning. Obviously, through these moments, it changed everything and I got to write my own story about things.
Hmm. Hmm. So let's just dive right into your story because you wrote it in your book for anyone who would
Yes.
like to find out more details about it. But let's try to go from the beginning to end so that we can take those who don't actually have the book in hand to
Yes.
have an understanding of your journey.
Sure. So, so as you know, I'm a speaker, so I'm going to kind of do it in that realm. So, I do talk about my abuses. I talk and share about my memories that go back to when I was 4. I
Hmm.
remember, vividly. And I don't know. I guess I'm going to say this is a trigger warning because I'm pretty open to sharing things, and
Right.
in the book I do share. I try to contain it a little bit, but
Right.
um, I remember my first memories being picked up from daycare from by my mother and strange men,
Right.
and so I was brought to different places. Um, Obviously, I was, exposed to a lot of different things. I had to witness things.
Right.
Things happened to me. And it was not until my adult years that I recognized that as part of a payment per se for
Right.
someone else's drug addiction.
Mm.
And that, really kind of messes with anyone, but it
Right.
really kind of traumatizes us, and so I would shift back and forth between her disappearing and being in rehabs or mental hospitals, and I would
Hmm.
stay with my grandmother. So there was no consistency.
Right.
It was
Hmm.
constant, this back and forth. My grandmother got custody of me, temporary custody. And I don't know if a lot of people know what kinship care is, but
Hmm.
kinship care is pretty much family foster care.
Right.
So it's just, you go through the whole system where, the parent has to prove that they're able to take
Able
care
to.
of a
Hmm.
child. Yes. In the
Yes.
meantime, though, there was a back and forth where I would go
Hmm.
on visits. And every time I would go on visits or she would come back in the picture, it was
Hmm.
the same abuses. The physical, the sexual, the mental, it really kind of damages, and can really break you even at a
Right.
young age of 4.
Right.
So yeah, and so my grandmother got me at 4, and I spent back and forth. And then, no one in my extended family knew.
Mhm.
So it was really this portrayal of a great life,
Right.
and so there was no rescue. There wasn't anybody looking out for me. There wasn't,
Mhm.
the person saying whatever. I do think that there were outside sources that said things at times.
Mhm.
Um, but when you have my grandmother was very manipulative and very precise as being able to
Mhm.
shut anybody out that would try
I
to,
see. Right.
come, but I was pretty blessed in the fact that as I got a little older, and I'm going to say 4, 5, 6 years old, I
Mhm.
recognized women that came into my life. And I didn't understand then until later on,
Mhm.
this connection, that you had this wanting a maternal person
Mhm.
in your life. And so I will say in elementary school, I had a babysitter. When I was with my grandmother, I had a babysitter that
Mhm.
gave me the safest home during the day, gave me memories of bike rides and playing in the
Right.
yard and giving these safe things.
Mhm.
And then, I was back into my mother's custody full time when I was 12. And
Mhm.
that to me was like the storm that had happened.
Right.
It was having to face somebody 24/7
Right.
that abused you in the most horrific way, but believed that they gave you everything as a child. And,
Wow.
and then you have to play this role, which you don't want to, but
Right.
in order to protect yourself, in order to keep the peace,
Right.
you have to go along with this world. And it was almost as if I started to live in two separate worlds. And what I mean by
Mhm.
that is I lived at the world at home and in the family.
Right.
And when I would go to school, it was a separate world. I was
Mhm.
in, like, I didn't have to face all the stuff that I did at
Right.
home. Um, but I recognized different things that would happen. I'm going to revert back to my third grade teacher real quick because I want, as we talk about teachers, I want to kind of
Mhm.
make that
Mhm.
connection.
Right.
I had a third grade teacher who I'm not sure if she knew the things that were going on at home. However, it was Mother's Day, and this teacher was one of my favorite teachers, but I was
Mhm.
also afraid of her, but in a in a good way, type of,
Okay.
not the same, didn't want to get in trouble.
Right.
And it was Mother's Day, and she asked the class to draw a picture of something that they love to do most with their moms. And when I
Mhm.
tell you the weight as a third grader that I felt, that was like the pit in my stomach and the weight on my chest, I didn't want to do anything with her. And
Mhm.
so I
Mhm.
look around the room and my friends are all, drawing these beautiful pictures, and she's going around to every desk asking
Right.
why. And she gets to mine, and I'm like panicked. Like, what do I say? And I drew a picture of a car with two stick figures. I will never forget this.
Mhm.
And I'm so thankful that she didn't ask me, because the reason why I drew that is because that's where I felt safe in moments with her.
Right.
There wasn't some things going on.
In the car.
Yes. And what was incredible, and what I learned again later, I recognized later, is
Mhm.
she kneeled down and just looked at it and looked at me and smiled. And the weight of that came off my chest. And for the rest of the day, anytime she saw me, she would smile and I would smile.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's like a day that I always hated, leading up
Right.
to Mother's Day. But I'll go then to getting custody of me about 12 years old. And I dealt with a lot of things for 2 years. And I had this wonderful counselor who was the first person to make me feel seen, make me feel heard. She played such an incredible role, and I actually just saw her for the first time since 1989,
Wow.
about a month and a half ago, and I got to tell her, and she's like, "I'm so happy I played a little role." I'm like, "Listen, as a kid that's going through
Mhm.
trauma, I couldn't go to sleep at night without a pillow over my head. I was always scared, always."
Mhm.
And she, when I first met her, kind of made my stomach have butterflies, and it was
Mhm.
that connection of, I would love this woman to be my mom and rescue me. And
Wow.
yeah, and so I think we learn coping skills as people who
Yes.
go through trauma.
Yes.
Um, I learned a coping skill that one day it just happened. I was at night and I was afraid to go to bed. And I told myself a story in my head about what it would be like if she rescued me, what it would
Mm-hmm.
be like if she became my mom. That
Right.
was the one thing that would help me go to sleep every night. And then it would spill into the day. Anytime chaos was erupting, I
Mm-hmm.
kind of disappear into that moment of,
Right.
I have somebody who loves me, things
Right.
like that. And I got to tell her that because she never knew that. So
Mm.
these are those little moments that nobody else knows about, but for
Right.
you, it is, you know, mind blowing.
Right.
Um, but 2 years after, I had her for 2 years and we moved to a new school, just our neighborhood. I'd been living with my mom for 2 years, and I would hear probably every day how it's my fault that she didn't have a boyfriend, she didn't have this.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was my fault for what she didn't have.
Right.
Um, and then I would get blamed for the things that would happen to me were my own
Right.
fault.
Mm-hmm.
And, I wish you were someone else. You don't matter to people, or I hate you. And so for 2 years, I listened to that. And I decided one day into my next school year, I was
Mm-hmm.
done.
Yeah.
And I woke up before school. I went into our cabinet because she was addicted to prescription drugs at this time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Took a handful, crushed them up in water, and I took that first drink, and I was ready. And then something stopped me. I always say that I have a big, strong faith, and I'm like, God put this thought in my head, and He said,
Mm-hmm.
if you do this, they're going to play. My grandmother and my mother will claim to be the victims, and
Right.
and that annoyed me so much that I didn't go through with it. I told a friend at the bus stop who she was an old soul in a young body, and I
Uh-huh.
knew that she would tell, and
Mm-hmm.
she did. And I went into school. Obviously, the police came in, the counselor, and she came in, and of course, she played the victim.
Right.
And it was the first time, and I thought back to the counselor that I had. It was the first time that I had the courage, and I said, "I'm not going home with her.
Right.
I'm not.
Wow.
I don't
Wow.
care where you bring me. I'm not." Let me tell you how terrified I was,
I'm sure.
but I was so done with everything.
Done. You were tired.
Yeah, and you kind of get into a position where you got nothing to lose,
That's it. That's true.
right?
That's true.
And so they took me to this shelter for runaway, abused, and homeless youth. It was a
Mm-hmm.
nonprofit shelter, and I stayed there for 30 days. And I met the most incredible woman who became my caseworker. And when I
Mm-hmm.
tell you incredible, beautiful, kind, nurturing,
Mm-hmm.
um, she showed me unconditional love and what that
Mm-hmm.
meant, and true love.
Right.
And one of the most important things that she taught me, there were so many things that she had taught me, but one of the important things, which is what kind of led me to the 30-second moments, is that she would say, there are so many people around you who care about you.
Mm-hmm.
And I would get so angry because I'd been facing all this negativity, and I'm like, I
Right.
don't have time to look around me. However, it wasn't to change my perspective, because
Uh-huh.
when we are facing abuses,
Right.
there's no perspective you can change on that.
No. No.
Um, but it was a shift of your focus. So shift your focus to what is good.
Right.
And when I did that, I kid you not, my world kind of changed, because I started getting the things that I wasn't getting at home.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the feelings. It wasn't, it wasn't this it wasn't monetary, anything like that. It wasn't, these things physical. It was the emotional connections, the things that made you feel good, things that helped you to become who you are. And so in that time is when I had my first connection. It was my 8th grade math teacher. She was absolutely my favorite teacher. And trust me, it's
As we
okay.
continue now, you're going to talk because you did say childhood, 4 years old, that you face certain traumas, but you didn't elaborate on what those traumas was. So I don't know
Okay.
if you wanted to get into, because we say trigger moment, but we
Oh,
didn't
yeah, yeah,
actually
yeah.
get into it. Okay.
Okay. You want me
So
to do that
let's,
now?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
All right. You may
Okay.
go.
All right. So when I talk about trigger moments, I would be taken to different homes, different locations, different men. One of the most traumatic one that stays in my mind that I really I have nightmares about. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say that it's not a healing thing, and I'll
Right.
speak about that later, but one of the things is I was 4 and I remember being told to get into the car. I remember wanting to get out of the car because
Uh-huh.
I knew it had been a cycle of things. I knew what this meant.
Right.
And so we went to this person's house. I can detail everything, the color
Wow.
of the wall, where the couch was, the arched doorways. I knew the location of the bathroom, of the bedroom, which is
Mm-hmm.
a big thing, and then obviously the door.
Right.
Um, the first night I was made to be in bed with the two of them. Um, the sight,
These
sound,
are grown men.
my mother and the man.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, yes. So my mother was, having sex with all these people while I had to be in the room, had to
Mm-hmm.
share a bed with. Um, I remember the sheets going up. I remember the smell. I remember the sound. And at 4
Mm-hmm.
years old, you can't hide in the dark when the dark is all around you.
Right. Exactly.
And so the second night we were there, because it didn't stop.
Right.
The second night was there. I remember being able to get in, sleep on the couch. And
Mm-hmm.
as I said, I would put a pillow over my head,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
trying to kind of stay hidden. At 4 years old, like you're like, if I just hide, trying to
Right.
drown out the sounds. Um, and then I heard him call for me,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't want to get up. And
Right.
I remember just sitting there. My heart was pounding and I could feel it in my chest. And again, I'm 4, but these are such vivid memories.
Yes. You have
Um,
vivid memories. Yes.
yes. And I was, he yelled at me to come in there and I didn't move at first. And then he called again. And in his voice, this time it was, get in. And I walked in the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
I was told to stand at the bottom right side of the bed,
Mm-hmm.
and he told me to watch him tickle my mother. And when I closed my eyes, he yelled at me, "Open your eyes and
Mm-hmm.
watch." And I had to watch him having sex, with my mother.
Wow. Wow.
Um, Sexual things were happening. Um, yes, I was molested.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I
At that same time,
all the time.
all the time.
Different things would happen. So either,
Wow.
unfortunately touching to being violated,
Wow.
up until I was 12. And
Wow.
so yeah, these were the things that were going
And
on
she
a
was always in the room.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yes, that I can remember.
Wow.
There was, yeah, that I can remember, it was always that.
Wow.
Yeah. So it plays a role, and when you've gone through that,
Yes.
these visions, the smells, the sights, the sounds,
Right. Right. Right.
are hard to get rid of and
Yes.
so triggering.
Triggers. Yes.
If I go past a house, which is a white stucco small house, I remember the picture of that house.
Right.
Close up.
Yes. Yes.
Trailers. um we had trailers. We had at one time, I think I was probably going into 4th grade or something of that sort.
Mm-hmm.
She was in Florida, and I was, "Oh, come down, it'll be great."
Mm-hmm.
And so at that age, you're back and forth whether,
Right.
"Oh, she wants to, okay, I'll go down." Always knowing in my mind things would
Mm-hmm.
never be great. And I got down there, and yeah, it was a old RV, and the first bed was, the converted table into the
Mm-hmm.
bed, and then there was like a bed in the back, and this man and an old man lived
Mm-hmm.
there. And one night you had to sleep with them, the next night
Wow.
you had to sleep with the old man and his dog.
Wow.
And that was the constant. I mean, there was no escape. And so
Mm.
these are constant things that you're going through, and again, you're going through them silent because you're taught they're normal.
Right.
You're taught that it's your fault.
Mm-hmm.
And that, yeah, just you can't say anything to anyone. And when you're told as a child that it's your fault, you don't want
Right.
to get in trouble by people. So you
Right.
don't say anything. Had
Mm-hmm.
social workers, never said a thing. She would drill me. If we had to go through a social worker, I had to be drilled on what I can and cannot say.
Right.
And so it just became your norm. You didn't know any better than that.
Wow. Wow.
And then, yeah, so, it was difficult. I mean, as is anybody who has to deal with that. I
Deal
mean,
with
I
that.
go back to times when I was, and I do have times when I remember being 3. And a
Right.
lot of people say you can't remember back then.
I'm telling you, you remember.
You do.
Trauma
It's,
is not something you
yes.
forget, because I have experienced it. I share it a lot. Even when I did my own memoir,
Yeah.
I kind of like had put things away in my thoughts and my mind. But of course, like you say, you have those trigger moments, things that
Mm-hmm.
trigger you.
Yeah.
And you're like, this familiarity, the smell,
Oh,
all of these
yeah.
different things. So when I
Yeah.
wrote it, everything just came to life. I remember being telling my mom of things that I remember happening when I was 2 years old.
Oh,
And she
my.
said, "You were too young. How can you know things like that?" But for me, though, I thought it was a dream. Like I dreamt these things.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when I told her about it, she said they weren't dreams. They were actually real things that had happened. So trauma, does leave. It's like a tattoo that won't
Mm-hmm.
go away.
Yeah.
It's evident. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that, it's funny because I do remember things when I was 2 and
Yeah.
3. And I've always remembered them. So there was never a time that I put anything in the back of my head. So I've
Yes.
lived with every memory every day.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
When I was 3, I remember it was the late 70s, and I remember there was like this bouncy ball with a Donald Duck head and like your
Mm-hmm.
handles on it.
Right.
And I was, bouncing
I remember
around.
those toys.
Yes, and I was bouncing around in the kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
and she just snapped. She just snapped and grabbed me, threw me, and then threw the ball out the door. And
Wow.
like those are the things I remember,
Yes,
and but you
yes.
can't cry. Don't
Yeah,
cry.
yeah,
Don't cry.
yeah.
And so you're holding all this stuff in constantly. And it's a cycle. Like,
Yes.
there were so many men, so many different things. Um,
Wow.
I guess it's human trafficking. I guess that's what we
Yes.
label it today. You
Today,
know,
yes. Yes.
pictures being taken. I mean, just it's horrible, And
Yes.
so I was trapped into this story that was a cycle that was going
Yes.
on, and this story was being written for me.
Right.
And so, you only had to go with what you have.
Right. You had to act.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like I said, I think I don't know, call it if you have whatever faith it is, but like I do believe that God put people into my life at a time when I needed them. And I didn't understand it then, but I
Right.
certainly understand it as an adult. And
Exactly.
and also I think logically that for some reason, some of us know and realize and recognize that
Yes.
you're not supposed to be there. That's not normal. That's not
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, yeah. And so going through school and having these, incredible teachers,
Mm-hmm.
going to the nonprofit organization and meeting this incredible woman,
Mm-hmm. This is
um,
at 12 years old now.
14 when I went to
14.
yeah,
14.
12 years old was when I moved in with her. And then 14 was when I went to the shelter
Mm-hmm.
and learned the most value. I mean, first, I learned unconditional love, and I
Right.
cannot. There's a connection with her that I have. It's just, she's my Michelle.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
That's
Right. Mm-hmm.
my caseworker. She's my Michelle. I can't
Right.
describe. I can't. You can't put in. Oh well, she's kind of a mom. No, and she's kind of a sister. No, I mean, she's just Michelle.
She was it.
Yeah, she's just Michelle, and I she taught me this most valuable lesson is to, again, to shift my focus and
Right.
find positive people into my life,
Mm-hmm.
and that opened up the door to these moments.
Right.
And had I not learned that, I don't think I would have grasped onto the moments, and those
Mm-hmm.
moments are what shaped me and helped me to become who I am.
Right.
The first moment was my 8th grade math teacher. Loathed math. I don't know how I became connected with her, but I just I adored her. And what's crazy is that she was also a volunteer at the shelter. I don't know, coincidence. I
Oh,
don't know how that worked out, but she would be my transportation.
wow.
And I wish I remembered those moments.
Right,
And
right.
because unfortunately my head is all wrapped around the bad.
Yeah.
Um, and I wish that I had
Wow.
courage to tell her.
Yes.
But the first moment, the first 30 seconds, and this is how I, talk about this in my book, is
Mm-hmm.
one day a man came in to see her, and my locker was directly across a little diagonal to her
Mm-hmm.
classroom.
Okay.
And I remember her calling me over. And that time I had, long curly hair. I do a lot of straightening these days, but I had
Mm-hmm.
long curly hair. And she pushed it off the back of off my shoulders and placed her
Mm-hmm.
hands there and introduced me to this man as, "This is my Denise." In that moment, and
Mm-hmm.
every time I say it, I can feel it. In that moment, that 30 seconds it took her to even say it, and it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't something that she meant, it was just a nice, endearing thing.
Mm-hmm.
In that moment, I went from the kid that never was wanted to feeling what I felt like it's like to be wanted by
Right.
someone.
Mm-hmm.
And I encapsulated that feeling, and it changed me. It was the shift of my focus.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I would have recognized that there is that moment in there
Mm-hmm.
that gives you something that you never had.
Right.
And I heard a speaker say once that people hear what they need to hear in that moment.
Selective hearing.
Yes. And
Mm-hmm.
so I needed that. I didn't know I needed that, but I did, but I didn't know in that moment it would
Yes.
happen. And I
Yes.
always say that it takes the littlest, like 30 seconds. It took her less than 30 seconds to say that.
Mm-hmm.
Yet it has transcended the time that it took for her to say that and has lasted me. And it was that feeling that I got.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the feelings that really live within us, and they're the things that change you.
Mm-hmm.
You can have all these big wonderful things, and
Right.
people are always trying to do perfection. And I heard, don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
Right.
So when people are like, looking for these perfect moments, they're
Right.
not there, but a
No,
good
they're not.
moment is right there. And so that changed me. And then, I had a coach who I was going through something again, in high school. You're trying to fit in, you're trying to find your place, you're trying to find these friends. And I was always desperately trying to find the friends in these good homes
Yeah.
and in that good community. And I don't know why, because I had incredible friends who grew up with me who knew.
Mm-hmm.
We're the same age though, and they always
Right.
tried to protect me. Um, but I was trying to fit in and with a group of girls, and there was a jealousy thing. We all wanted the same attention, or there was one person that we wanted this attention from our
Mm-hmm.
coach. And Christmas break comes around. And for those of us who face the traumas at home,
Right.
it's the worst time. Summer breaks, Christmas, all the
Yes.
holidays, when everybody else is excited to be off of school, we are
Right.
silently dying because we
Yes.
know
You
that there
don't
is
have that.
no escape. You are back behind those doors. There is no
Yes.
one for you to look forward to seeing. There is not
Yes.
the day where you're in the school. Regardless, I was a bad kid for like a couple years, but I didn't have that. It was like I was fighting for my life,
Yeah,
per
because
se.
that's why I wanted to stop there, because when you
Yeah.
say bad kid, you were reacting from the
Yes.
life that you had,
Yeah.
so that was your way, of trying to have some type of control or some type of balance. And that's why when I see people say, oh, such and such is a bad kid, but the
Yeah.
problem is, what did you go to the root cause? Did you try to find out what is going on? Why is this child
Right.
acting out? Because it's
Right.
called acting out. Why is this child acting out? Because there are things that is going on. Children in innocently. Children are not programmed to be bad. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Children always want to be good. So when you have a
Yes.
child that is acting out in this way, there is always some type of underlying issue. So for you,
Absolutely.
you were acting out from what you were dealing with, and you were
Hmm.
trying to find some type of balance, some type of control of your life. And that's the way it could happen in order to probably push extra things from happening from you.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot that goes on too. I'd
Hmm.
spent like, my elementary school years trying to be perfect. If I'm perfect, somebody would come get me. And then
Right.
once you get to middle school and nobody's coming to get you, you're
Hmm.
angry, lash out. For a long
Lash
time,
out.
I used to say, oh, that's not an excuse for that. There's no
Yeah.
excuse for that. And my one friend said, yeah, there is. Like, you were angry. I
Yeah.
mean, and I was. And then you find that attention all of a sudden gets you attention too.
Right.
And
Of
so
course.
you want attention, you get attention.
Hmm.
And yeah, it stems from an anger. It stems from just,
Yes. Hurt.
wanting to be heard, wanting to be seen, wanting to be, of course, it's not the logical way to do
Right.
it. But yeah, and then I got to high school and I wasn't the bad kid anymore.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
I shifted my focus and found all those little things, which
Right.
really changed me. Like I said, it was that feeling of being wanted. Nobody could take that away from me. And so I
Yes.
can live in that moment whenever I needed it to. I
Hmm.
could think
Hmm.
of the moment, but I can think of that feeling I got within it.
Yeah.
And then I got to this coach, and you go through the holidays and stuff, and we had this, wanting to be the coach's favorite or something. I don't even know what it was by now. But I came back
Kids go through
from,
that competing to get the attention of the
yes,
teacher.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I get back to school, and the one person just said something, did something, and I honestly can't remember what it was, but made me feel as if, I was too much for that coach.
Wow.
And that destroyed me. And all of a sudden, I didn't have something to look forward to. Like,
Wow.
these people, the positive people, they're who you get up and show up for.
Right.
And so again, she had no idea any of this. So I planned to take my life again. And
Wow.
so I
Rejection.
I decided to go to
Mm.
practice one more time, and then planned my stuff out. And
Wow.
as I'm walking into practice, she all of a sudden comes next to me and then throws me into this headlock and said, I think I'm going to take you under my wings.
Wow.
Time stopped. And in that
Wow.
moment, in that small little moment, she said that, which again, these are like 30 seconds
Wow.
that it takes someone to say that.
30 seconds.
I mattered to someone.
Yes.
Someone saw me and I mattered to that person. That person wanted to see me
Hmm.
succeed to do things. And
Yes.
so I had that to look forward to. And again, you spend every day, I'm going to look forward to this person, this person, this person. Well, 2 years. And she ends up going out because now she's having a family. And I was hurt, but at the same time, it wasn't
Wow.
because like of me or anything like that.
Right.
But at the same time, and I didn't recognize this, remember shifting your focus.
Right. Right.
I had another teacher in high school that I had kind of bonded with as well.
Hmm.
She was my gym teacher, my gym and health teacher. She's part of why I wrote the book, because she was been
Hmm.
persistent for years. Um, she would recognize that I needed to talk, even
Wow.
though I wouldn't talk because you keep quiet. She recognized it. And she would say, and this is back in the 90s, so you could do this. She was like, come
Right.
out to my car. And after school, I go and sit in her car. And she
Hmm.
always did this. And she still does this to this day because she's
Hmm.
still in my life. She tapped me on the knee and she was like, okay, come on, tell me your day. What's going
Hmm.
on? How are you? And once again, in those small moment of time, I felt worthy. Someone wanted to be there as much as I needed to be there.
Wow.
And these moments of, again, it's a feeling you get. It's not so much the moment, but it's the
Right.
feeling within the moment that you take with you. And so I'm going to skip all the way to a couple years ago. In between, you're navigating the adult world. You don't have school to go to anymore. You're trying to
Yes.
navigate. You're still in fear of these people in your family. So you feel stuck because you still don't feel like you can do anything. And it's sad
Right.
because you're an adult. You feel like once you get into that adult mindset, everything else is good.
Right.
And so I navigated that. And then I became a mom, and I tried to keep the family away from my small family.
Come on.
And
Come on.
my
Because you've
husband,
been through
yes.
it.
And my husband was military. And so I say that's a blessing too, because we moved out of state
Hmm.
and I was able to do things. And then we had to go back into state. And that's when I saw these little things happening. And I'm like,
Hmm.
I need out. So when my kids got to a certain age, I'm like, we need to go do a different base. I don't care
Right.
where you take me.
Yes. Yes.
And we did. And at that point, I was able to block my mother. I remember the day my son
Hmm.
had a seizure and I was holding him in my arms. It was like 11 o'clock at night.
Hmm.
And she was texting me how awful of a person I am and how
Wow.
I make my
At that
kids sick.
time.
Yep. How
Whew.
I make my kids sick, how everybody doesn't want to be around me. My family thinks I'm nuts. I mean, everything.
Wow.
And in that moment, I'm looking down at my son and I just hit block. And that was in
That's it.
2014.
Hmm. Hmm.
Unfortunately, within those time, she called the Dr. Phil show to try to get me to come on. Yes,
What?
I cannot make this up. I
Oh
denied.
my
Yeah, I
gosh.
denied going on. And then she called social services on me
Wow.
to say that I was the one hurting my children, which was really like I just cannot even put into words. Now,
Wow.
my kids have my son has special needs and medical needs.
Hmm.
And his doctors were so livid. I mean, the case was closed right away.
Right.
The doctor said there's nothing that this parent is doing to make these illnesses. They can't. This is
Right.
a
Thank
genetic
God. Thank
thing.
God.
Yeah. And so we had all that. And I will say I sheltered my kids from knowing, and my son has special needs, so he doesn't know anything.
Exactly, exactly.
I
The children, certain
Yes,
things, especially if children are not well, don't need to know
right.
certain things. You wait till they get a certain age that they
Yes,
get full details of your life. I
that's
mean, my kids
yeah.
really didn't know about a lot of stuff in my life until I wrote my book.
Yeah,
They're like,
well,
"Mom, you're my mom," and you
yeah,
used to say a few
yeah.
little things, but Mom, my daughter who read the whole thing, she read it literally in less than 6 hours because she said she couldn't put it down. It's like,
Oh,
Mom, like,
yeah,
Mom, really? I mean, I've heard you say certain things, but Mom, if you weren't my mom, I would have been like, this can't be real.
yeah.
So, but there's a time for it because as your children are healing, because you saw how your innocence was taken away from you.
Mhm,
I'll spend time on this. I have a group that I called in the healing room. So there's two groups that was just founded
mhm.
in this past April. One is called the Healing Room for young women who have opened up. I allow it to be a room where they can come in and share their stories.
Right.
Then I have those who commit to purity. People think purity is that of the mind, the things that you think, not all of that. And so I had to talk about this particular part where how can I heal from something that I don't feel?
Yeah. 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 I have
Okay.
I have a good quote. I have to tell you this quote because I found this and I thought it was amazing. It said, "You're not healing to be able to handle trauma.
Yeah.
You're used to trauma.
Yeah.
You're healing to be able to handle joy."
Come on.
Is that not
I love it.
incredible?
I love it.
I
I
didn't
love
make
it.
that up, so it wasn't me. I read it somewhere.
Yes,
But
but it's beautiful.
that,
It's
yeah,
beautiful. And I
yeah.
had to say that also because sometimes when we say we're not feeling, we're sometimes only feeling when we're triggered,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Because you're not living this thing constantly. So you put things away in your subconscious, especially if it was something that was done in your childhood, but now you're at a different place and
Yeah.
you choose to like forget it, drown it out.
Yes.
As an adult, though,
Yeah.
because you've gone through these experiences, you are like you're sheltering. You're like that mama lioness,
Yes.
with your children. No
Yes.
sleepovers, no this. You're not going. Your
Yeah.
children might look at you as a bad parent, but they don't understand what you're trying to protect them from because
Yes.
for you, myself, and others on here, it happened in our home. It happened with people, family members that we
Yes.
know, people who should love us.
Right.
Okay. So let alone strangers that you don't know anything about.
Right.
All right.
Right. And my daughter didn't know anything until she was 18. I chose
Mm-hmm.
that, and I said, as she gotten older
Mm-hmm.
and inquisitive, I kept saying, you know what, when you turn 18, you could ask me
Right.
and I'll tell
Right.
you anything. And so a
Mm-hmm.
couple of years ago, she's 20 now. So a couple of years
Mm-hmm.
ago, we were going to New York. She wanted to have that as her 18th birthday. So it's her and I driving in the car,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like, okay, I'm 18. Tell me.
She's
And
been
so,
waiting.
yeah.
She's
And
been
so
waiting.
I,
Children, they don't
yeah,
forget.
no. And so I started to tell her just the things I was comfortable with.
Comfortable with. Mm-hmm.
And as I'm telling her, and I kid you not, as
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling her, I share these incredible women that were in my
Right.
life. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I had this at that time too. And she knows
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them because they're
Right.
in my life as my friend now.
Right.
And when I was done telling her, I said, I wished I had a mom so that I can be a better mom to you. Because that's
Right.
one thing like I have always
Yes.
hurt for. Like I just wanted a mom. Not mine. I've never wanted her. I wanted
Wow.
somebody else.
Because you didn't have that
No.
experience.
And so she dead serious. She turns to me and she's like, Mom, I am so happy that they raised you the way that they did
Mm-hmm.
because I have always felt seen, felt heard. I
Yes.
have always felt unconditionally loved. I have always felt that I am wanted, that I matter, and that I'm worthy.
There it is. You've
And
been the
so
mom that you wish you had.
yes, but you know what? I didn't realize that I was able to give that because of these women. Had I
Yes.
not experienced these small moments, I wouldn't have had that.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have had that. And so these moments, when I talk about how tiny they are,
Mm-hmm.
they're so much bigger than that. They're
Yes.
so much bigger than that.
So much.
So much.
They're 30 seconds that change
Yes,
your life.
correct.
They are life altering. God sent you destiny helpers, and you were able to be open to them, to be receptive to them. And a lot of them who were not even knowingly aware of the impact that they were playing in your life, the words that they said. That's why I love affirmations. I love dropping them, put them in chats. I love putting them in groups because it is these messages to me, like the
Mhm.
hidden codes, like secrets. Like I needed to hear that, you
Yes.
know? So if it bless me, I share it. If I'm feeling down, I'm like, somebody's probably feeling this emotion right now. So
Yes.
let's just share this. Because a lot of times you feel like you're alone when you're going through this. Then when you're older and you start talking about it, you find that what friends, people that you
Yeah.
know that was going through the same experiences.
Mhm.
But as children, it's not like you're sitting around having conversations with kids on the things that you're experiencing as
Right.
a child.
Right.
Yes.
Right. It's true. And as I've gotten to be an adult, I've found a community of people who, and I say
Yes.
an adult, probably in the past 5 years, a community of people
Mm-hmm.
who um, share some of the relatability of things. Our stories are all different. They're always
Right.
going to be different. But
Yes.
to connect with someone who can relate to emotions, I
Yes.
think that that is one of the biggest things ever because I think that we
Yes.
stay silent
Yes.
based upon like I just did something with a podcast where I talked about grief
Mm-hmm.
and how do you grieve something you've never had.
Yeah.
And one
Yeah.
of the things that I've grieved my entire life, not having a mom.
That.
That is
Yeah.
the one thing that I have struggled with my
Yeah. Everyone
entire
has a
life.
grief. Everyone
Yeah.
has a grief.
And
For
there's
me, it's a father.
okay,
Not
yeah.
having a father in my life.
Yeah. I didn't
So.
need that. But they're not there either, but I didn't need that. I was so honed in on,
Right.
wanting that maternal um person in my life.
Right.
And once
Yes.
I had cut contact and I actually had to get a no contact order
Wow. It
three
got
years
that extreme.
yes, 3 years ago. And
Wow.
and as soon as I did, because I opened up, I lost my entire family except for two people. I have a cousin
Wow.
who's just a little older than me, and then I have another cousin who married into the family.
Mm-hmm.
She's older, like a parent, who didn't know, but read my book and
Wow.
was blown freaking away.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, and basically, she said, "No, you have me." And so that's like
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
this was just recently, so, since
Wow.
February, I
Wow.
haven't had family until then, and it is a most, while it's a small group, it's like,
Healing.
it is nice to have someone and that you can call and talk to,
Yes,
you
yes.
know? And
Yeah.
so there's something in that.
Wow, Denise. Like I said, we have so many stories on here. Everyone's story is uniquely theirs. Like, and I say this a lot, when we get on life's highway, we're all on the same highway.
Yeah.
We probably pass each other in opposite directions or going in the same direction, but we just came off at different exits. So we have different perspectives on the highway. Some
Yeah.
break down on the highway. Some need to wait for the highway, the highway people to come and rescue and charge your battery or fix your flat. So you have all of these things happening, just today as I'm on this live right now, there's a fatality on the highway with
Mm,
two motorists who lost their life from a semi. So everyone's going through a different
yeah.
experience while one is rushing off to work, is losing, there's some type of
Yeah.
grief, there's some type of trauma. These things are constant and always are happening. Just because you see someone doesn't mean that they are not dealing with some type of trauma or some type of grief. I mean, it is always there. Some people just camouflage it. They hide
Yeah.
it behind their makeups. They hide it behind expensive clothing. People sometimes are judging people for how they're dressed and wearing, but that's person outlet to
Hmm.
express themselves. That's the
Right.
only place that they have joy. You understand? Is,
Yeah.
let me look good. This is going to divert away from my pain. There's so many areas how people are camouflaging. So we're going to get right here to your book, because your book pretty much has broken down,
Yes.
okay, a little here. And so you did talk about it, and we're going to come right here so everyone will be able to find this book. This is Denise's memoir,
Yeah.
okay? And it's called, very fitting,
Yeah.
30-second moments. All
Yeah.
right. So in this book, you break down everything that you have said on the podcast, and I'm sure on some, because we were not able to go into the
Yes.
whole
Yes.
length of it, but you kind
Absolutely.
of summarize the story. So
Yes.
this is where you can get Denise's book on Amazon. All
Yes.
right. And I will put all her links in the bio, so you'll be able to reach her if you need more information from her. You need to reach out and let her know that her presence here today on Emerge and Empower have blessed you. All right. Do reach out, because we have the
Yeah.
guests on here. And if you find the person relatable, we're encouraging you to reach out, because this is a lifeline. All
Yeah.
right. We're giving you a lifeline. We're giving you an extension. And everyone that's here is in empowerment. They've emerged from, and they're here to help you through your journey, because there's life after trauma. That is my whole motto. And my whole mentorship program is about, there is life after trauma, helping individuals who deal with grief and trauma. All right. So Denise, the book is up here.
Yes.
Can you give us a short synopsis of the book and what to expect?
Yeah, so I do go, I talk again about my childhood and things that have happened, but I also talk about the relatability between my home life and what was going on at school. So as I talk about these women, I'm not just
Mm-hmm.
talking about the women, I'm talking about behind the door of the unknown. So I have
Mm-hmm.
these two worlds, my school world and my home world. So I share about that a little bit more in depth. I talk about how the journey of having these women helped me in my life,
Mm-hmm.
including to becoming who I am today.
Right.
How I took the story and the narrative that was already written for me before I was even born, to changing that narrative and
Yes.
becoming who I am today, and becoming the speaker and the author, and really finding my voice and saying,
Yes.
you know what, it's okay to say something, because out
Yeah.
there is a 14-year-old kid like me sitting in that classroom with a burden of hurt, shame, pain, that needs that one teacher, one
Yes.
person, whoever it is. And they don't need to do anything but be themselves.
Just
And
be it.
somewhere in that connection, somewhere is that 30 seconds that will change that child forever.
Yes, yes, yes. And so we have a lot of teachers, we have a lot of leaders
Yes.
that are in the following. You matter, you make a difference.
Hmm.
You might not hear it often because I know it's a lonely place when you're empowering people, when you
Yeah.
want to help people, when you put yourself out there to be the voice or advocate for change. It is not usually received well or
Mm-mm.
welcomed because a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but it is necessary. And what you're doing is making an impact on someone's life. Like Denise said,
Yeah.
that 30 seconds of your smile towards them, your kindness towards them, that affirmation that you've given is making a difference and changing lives. Okay, it's changing lives, and it only takes 30 seconds. Wow, I love it. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. So, Denise, before we close out today, I would like for you to speak to our audience, whether it's a mother, a father, even a young person that is
Yes.
on here, that is watching, with a message that you would like to relay. Go ahead and speak to our audience on today.
Well, first and foremost, I want to say that there is a hero in every one of us that we never knew existed. So, first and foremost, if you're a teacher, understand that the impact is not coming from within the subject you're teaching. The greatest impact comes from the moments that you never knew existed.
Yes.
Um, I have to talk to that child out there that is living two worlds, and I have to tell them that um, it's so important to shift that focus. I know that you may not see it right away, but it's that feeling you get in a matter of a second that makes you feel something that you had never felt before. Live in it. If it's the thing that gets you day to day to day, because you're going to
Yes.
learn as you do that to find it in other people as well. And collectively, you might, have the same experience I have where it became a parent. They were all these parents to me. And I will say this, somebody asked me about, like, I can only speak on trauma, so I don't have a parent thing to go to. But
Right.
as a parent, I will say what I've learned and what I teach my daughter is that you might not always want to come to me. You might not always feel comfortable coming to me.
Yes.
That is okay. But please find someone
Find someone.
that you feel comfortable with. I don't care who it is. Share it with them. Make sure, because I don't want you to ever live quiet. I never want you to be silent, hold
Yes.
secrets. So if you're a parent out there, let your kids be comfortable enough to say it's okay to go to someone else. It doesn't mean that they love you any less. It
Yes.
just means, they don't have to hold on to something that maybe they're not okay. Not okay. It's that they're not comfortable sharing with you.
Comfortable
And
sharing.
there's no problem in that.
Mm-hmm.
There's no problem in that. So, yeah.
Yes. Indeed. So I do want to thank you so much for being here on Emerge and Empower. And everyone, I just want you to send those hearts to Denise, send those hearts, send
Mhm.
those hearts, and just encourage, because she was brave enough to come on here. I know there's a lot of you who are still not bold enough to
Yeah.
tell your story, and this is Denise telling her story and sharing it. It didn't happen in the beginning. So, but once the healing journey began, you become comfortable enough to be able to share it. But I must say this, and it's very important: forgive yourself.
Mhm.
Forgive yourself. It's not your fault.
Yeah.
People telling you it's your fault, you're the reason why things are happening, all of that blame, and you start believing it and you taking it to heart. No, no. And do not become a victim who now becomes an abuser, because that
Mhm.
also too can
Yeah.
happen because you have not healed. All
Mhm.
right. So it's time to heal. The healing is for you. Let me tell you, healing is beautiful.
Mhm.
Healing is joy. And you are no longer existing, but living. Healing change your perspective. You probably always was in the gloom, but once you heal, it's like bright. You just get up and you're just happy. You become confident, right?
You
You
do.
become confident when you're healed. Trust me. Okay, that low self-esteem and all of that unworthiness is things that was shared or spoken over you. So I'm coming against all those altars and those word curses that has been on your life. We're coming against all of that today to tell you that is being destroyed. You are who God created you to be, and you can move into the best version of yourself. Do not stay trapped in that place, because it's a dark place and there is no joy. All right, you are deserving of joy and happiness. All right. You deserve it all. So thank you so much, Denise, for being here on Emerge and Empower. And I look forward to your story. Hopefully, you can also be on the magazine. Maybe send a synopsis of your story, because we have a monthly magazine that comes
Okay.
out as well. I love to continue sharing the
Yeah.
stories and bringing more awareness, because some people are more readers.
Yes.
They rather read about something versus. So the
Yeah.
podcast, when you're on Facebook, it's all visual on social media, but on podcast platform, it's the audio version. So
Mhm.
when you want to connect and want to see the visual version, to see the our guests, come on in to the Facebook. Subscribe to Dr. Lin J on YouTube, and you'll see all the audio and visual portion of the Emerge and Empower TV podcast. Be blessed, everyone, and thank you for being here on the platform. Thank you so much, Denise.
Thank
I
you for having me.
appreciate you, and continue doing a great job that you're doing in our community.
Thank
Bless
you.
to you.